Welcome to the 8th video in the Metric Math, Water, and Wastewater YouTube series. This video is going to focus on how to find the volume of cylinders or pipes when the measurements are given in meters or some other unit. Then you're going to be asked to convert the answer to the appropriate unit. Finding the volume of cylinders in megaliters, cubic meters, and liters. There's a few things you have to remember when you're going through these types of problems. Well, the first thing is 1 megaliter. If you're going to convert megaliters to cubic meters, you have to multiply by 1,000. If you're going to convert cubic meters to liters, you multiply by 1,000. If you're going to go megaliters to liters, 1,000 times 1,000 gets you 1,000,000. Second thing that you're going to work on in this particular video is what formula to use for your calculation of the volume. In this case, 0.785 times diameter height is what I would strongly encourage. And I'll explain in the video why that is a better formula to use than the traditional pi r squared height. The next thing that you're going to be looking at to remember in this video is to always convert your measurements, if they're not in meters, to convert them to meters. Like how many centimeters to a meter. If you're given it in millimeters, convert that to meters and do that as early as possible. That will make your calculation so much easier to do. You'll be reminded that every number needs a unit. If you don't have a unit behind it, you'll very easily get tricked, especially when the answer comes about and you haven't kept track of what the units are. Then check if the final answer has the unit that you're looking for. So those are always reminders that I go through right at the beginning. Those are just knee-jerk things you have to look at rather than just looking at what the number is going to be. All right, find the volume of water in liters of a 250 millimeter pipe, which is 468 meters long. Step 1, identify. What are the key words? Well, when you're looking at this, there's not a lot in that information, so most of it is pretty important. 250 millimeter pipe. And notice that tells you two things. It tells you both a dimension, so that means that we're going to be using the formula of a cylinder as our solution method. Second thing that you were looking at in this particular question is its length, 468 meters long. Now, if you take a cylinder and you have like 0.785 times diameter height, if you take that cylinder and lay it down on its side, the height is now the length. So don't be confused about that long or height. It's the same thing. You're asked to find the final unit for the volume in liters. So that's where there might have to be some conversions later on. Now, we're going to take a look at step 2, identifying the formula that's needed. So you could use 0.785 times diameter height, or you could use the old trusty pi r squared height. Now, I'm going to strongly encourage you to use the first formula. Why? Because you don't have to do a division to take diameter, the 250, and divide it in half to get to radius. Now, that's a very, very simple mistake that you are preventing. If that's true, then where did that 0.785 come from? Well, if you take diameter and cut it in half, now you've done a half, and you do the second one, a half times a half is a quarter. If you take pi and divide it by 4, or a quarter of pi, you'll get 0.785. So that's where that comes from. Another thing that I'm going to encourage you to do is write out actual formula as diameter times diameter. Don't put in diameter squared because that's too often the easy mistake. 0.785 times diameter times 2 instead of squaring it. So write it out the way that you're going to punch it into your calculator. Now we're going to look at step 3 where you fill in the variables and solve. Again, I emphasize strongly, don't just put in 0.25 and square it. Write it out the way that you're going to put it into your calculator. When you put those numbers in and solve, the answer is going to be 22.961 cubic meters. Step 4. Now is the time for you to check if the unit is correct, and if it's not, then how to fix it. So notice the answer that you had here was 22.961 meters cubed. And you wouldn't get that meters cubed if you didn't put the units in the previous steps. Meters times meters times meters. Here you get meters cubed, and notice that is not the same unit that you were asked to find. So you have to do a conversion. And remember, in the very, very beginning of this video, 1 cubic meter multiplied by 1,000 gets to cubic meters to liters, you multiply by 1,000, to get to 22,961 liters. Now is the time to summarize what we've just looked at. Key things. Identify your keywords, write in the initial question, underline them. Write out the formula, not just the numbers, but the actual formula, and then the next step, put in the numbers that fit into each one of the categories, whether it's diameter, whether it's height. And make sure you put the unit in with each one of the numbers. Then it becomes time for you to just do your basic solving, isolating your answers so that your known is on one side, the unknown is on the other. Get your answer and then check to see if the answer has the correct unit. And if it doesn't have the correct unit, what are you going to have to do to convert it? In this case, we went from cubic meters to liters by multiplying by 1,000. Thanks for watching this math video. Please check out the other videos in this channel and put in some comments, and then pass this site on to other water and wastewater students that might be having some challenges or struggles with their math. Goodbye for now. Have a good day.